Radio dial is set to the Richard Schwartz and Associates Injury Lawyers Legal Power Hour. We know it's the highlight of your week. Patrick Wooten, Daniel Junkin here on your Monday morning as Richard continues to travel the world, and I've enjoyed getting to talk to him and hear his adventures as he's off down under on a fabulous trip with his wife and some family friends. He'll be back later this month. If you'd like to join us on the Richard Schwartz and Associates Legal Power Hour, you can absolutely do that on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395, or call us on the Supertalk call line 888-808-8637. Daniel is one of our fabulous personal injury associates, just over 5 years? I was trying to think the other day how long you've been at the firm. So
I was thinking about that too. I was looking at some of the years going back, and I was like, wow, that's almost 6 years.
And time flies.
It does. So, it absolutely does.
But does a great job for us. So, anytime, any legal question you have, Daniel can certainly answer it. We can answer it. So first and foremost, I'll throw out there before we can kind of talk about the weekend is our thoughts and prayers go to everyone with the California wildfires. Just absolutely tragic situation over on the West Coast, and appreciate everything that the firefighters are doing. And we know folks from Canada have come in to help, and actually firefighters from Mexico have come in to help. So, huge props to those men and women who are putting their lives on the line trying to, get those horrible fires under control. And just the devastation and the photos, I'm sure you've seen them, and the videos is just absolutely unbelievable. So thinking about those folks for sure. We were talking before we came on today. You're a big Bulldog fan, so went up to Starkville. Didn't get the result you wanted.
That was a fun trip, though. The Humphrey Coliseum was packed. I haven't seen it packed in at least since Stansbury was there, probably 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then that was just an electric atmosphere. Played really well. Kentucky just shot the lights out, and sometimes when you don't miss, it's hard to can't do anything about it.
Yep. The SEC is clearly a basketball conference this year. It is unbelievable, just top to bottom, how good the conference is.
We don't have anybody in the football national championship game, which is a little disappointing.
2 years in a row.
I know, that kind of hurt. I was thinking about that on the way up here. I was like, that's kind of depressing. But basketball, I was looking at the state schedule. It was like Auburn's number 2. You got Florida, LSU,
Tennessee,
A&M, Alabama, Tennessee. It's just a gauntlet going through that schedule.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And we hadn't even gotten to baseball yet, which is really, where we shine. So it is.
Absolutely.
That's right. So forget about that football game. I mean, that's old news.
We're a basketball and baseball school.
That's right. Well, it's fun. I happened to hear yesterday on Sports Talk Radio as I was running around, the guy was joking. He's like, yeah, football's overrated. SEC's got men's basketball, women's basketball. Yeah. It's like baseball, softball, because Oklahoma's a juggernaut in softball. Yeah. It's like we dominate in indoor and outdoor track and everything. So he's like, we took everything else. We had to give everyone else something. So although I did think Texas, man, I thought they were going to come back and tie that game up.
I did too. There was just that one play call.
Why you try to go wide?
Yeah,
you're at the 1 yard line. Just run it up the mid off tackle 4 times in a row. Surely you can get 3 feet.
You would think. Even a quarterback sneak, I don't know why people – because they don't take under center snaps.
Correct, which is crazy.
So they sit in the shotgun. You're already 5 yards back.
Yep.
When the quarterback sneak, it almost always works.
Yeah. But it was a game. It was fun.
Absolutely.
I mean, pro football, the playoffs started, which were a good time. So thankfully last night – of course, my team's not in the playoffs, but we finally had a competitive game last night, of which the Commanders go pull off the upset. And I think Daniels is the 4th rookie quarterback ever to lead his team to a road victory in the NFL playoffs.
Do you know the other three?
I know Sanchez was one.
Mark Sanchez?
Mark Sanchez, which is hilarious that he's one of them. They said it last night on the broadcast, and Sanchez is the one that stuck out to me. That he literally pulled off. I think he actually won 2 road games his rookie year.
Now he played in 2 AFC Championship games.
Yep, but he's, of course, what's he most famous for? the butt fumble. I mean, that's what the poor guy is most famous for. But so just sports is fun. It's a great time of the year in the calendar because you have college basketball is heating up. The NFL is rolling. We got one more game tonight, which will be I think should be a fun one. Which of course they had to relocate to Arizona because of the fires, which is crazy. So I'm be curious to see what sort of fan interaction. They said they were going to bus fans over from L.A. to try to give that home field advantage.
It can't be that far.
Yeah.
I don't know how far it is,
but I mean, it's
still tough.
It's still not going to be quite the same if you're L.A. to work the season, got home field advantage, and then you don't have home field advantage when it actually comes to the playoff, your opening playoff game when it's all said and done.
Very true. And I think Cam Akers playing for the Vikings.
He did. Cam somehow, manages to wind up on a bunch of players' team. That's right, because he's a Clinton grad. Yeah, he actually was there. My son graduated from Madison Central years ago, so it's like I look back. My son got to play against Cam Akers, got to play against who was the quarterback at Brandon, who's Gardner Minshew. Yeah. So my son's senior year my son played defense, got to play against Minshew. I mean, Malik Deer, I think, went to Murrah. We played against Willie Gay, who was at Greenville Wesson. We played against. So it was
Willie Gay. He was at Starkville.
Somewhere I know there's a linebacker that went from Greenville Wesson to State that was really good. But it's interesting that you look back and it's like, hey, you get to see these people in high school, so it's always fun. And
he'll get to tell those stories for years.
Yeah, and Mississippi's just full of talent, so unbelievable. But if you'd like to join us, and we will talk law because that's what you're on, the Richard Schwartz and Associates Injury Lawyers Legal Power Hour, you can text us at 601-879-4395 on the C Spire text line, or call us on the Supertalk call line, 888-808-8637. I know last Monday when I hosted, we were talking, in the two folks who were here, which was Walker and Adrian, we talked about New Year's resolutions. And, of course, I have mine, which I'm still following through on, because what was interesting is this past Friday was National Quitters Day. Most people's New Year's resolutions last a week and a half. So thankfully, I at least can say I'm good through 12 days, and I will manage to keep my resolution today. So did you make a resolution?
Kind of. I wanted to be more organized. I feel like I'm still doing that. I have not given up on it yet. It's not necessarily a specific goal, but just more in general. I feel like I'm doing better. Still on it.
Yeah.
Didn't quit.
No, organization's key. I kind of keep my desk pretty organized. That I can't stand the agent of chaos. Look in there, and then I bought, because who was it? Walker saw. I bought this thing called a Desk Buddy, which I've now, if you walk in my office,
is that
it's mine. It's pretty small. That it's black, has a angled top on it. You write with a dry erase marker. But and then you can buy these little color-coded squares that you can fit around that create frames. So I have them color-coded, but it's like I can write case numbers down.
Oh, cool.
So instead of, it replaces sticky notes.
Nice.
It's a way to get rid of a bunch of sticky notes, which so far it's worked out really well. Because at Friday I was like, okay, there's my case number. I know what I need to do.
Nice.
Knocked it out. Then I have my little spray and the cloth it came with, and wiped it off. So instead of having sticky notes all over my computer, so. It's a good thing.
Now, organization at work is a little easier. Organization at home is a lot tougher on me with the kids' schedule and everything.
I get it.
That's definitely where I'm more focused.
Yeah, it is never a dull moment when it comes to organization. Although I am the neat freak. I mean, I do laugh. Even my wife will say, like, my closet is the most organized closet in the house of anyone at our home. Now, I'm not quite so far as my dress shirts aren't all blue shirts, all white shirts. I'm not that far as that, but dress shirts are all together. Golf shirts are in a different section all together, and so forth.
I do that.
Yeah. So
I do that.
And I've gotten on this kick where I've bought a bunch of shoe racks because I have a closet which got shelves. But I've bought a bunch of shoe racks to help organize my shoes better. So that does look – I'm really excited about that because it has really been a freeing moment here in 2025. Well, you are listening to the Richard Schwartz and Associates Injury Lawyers Legal Power Hour. We've gotten a couple texts in on the C-Spire text line. We'll get to those right after this break.
I have a quick question for you
regarding,
and not to be in any way callous to what is going on in Southern California, but will the citizenry of some of these municipalities have any kind of class action or any type of group legal ability to sue the municipalities or those that may be on the hook for not having water and functioning? I mean, are they immune, municipalities, from that, or are they on the hook potentially?
Yeah, I mean, generally you've got, municipalities have sovereign immunity. Mm-hmm. And really, you must look at my notes because it's funny. That's literally one of the topics I'd written down to talk about today is a Tort Claims Act case.
I'm on TikTok, so I'm spying on you.
I know.
Yeah, I'm
That's
all
right.
over that. I knew what was coming.
Yeah, unfortunately, governmental agencies generally have given themselves sovereign immunity. So the fact that the reservoir was empty and I read
whatever they may be.
Yeah, I read that L.A. Fire Department had let go more than 100 firefighters because they didn't get the COVID vaccine and so forth. So I think unfortunately you're not going to be able to sue the government of California.
Not that they have any money, but
correct.
Yeah.
They're so broke it would be you'd have a worthless piece of paper anyway.
Well, thank you for answering that.
Typically, governments have immunity from anything that's a discretionary function.
Yep.
Okay.
So if you can't prove what they did, the government actually did, was negligent, right? Like just deciding on how to organize your budget is not like a negligent action which a group of people can bring suit against the government doing. It would have to be something directly like a car accident that the government was driving that you can sue for, but you can't sue for anything that then you could say that anything a president did that a group of people didn't like or got affected by, then they could sue even though it was just a decision. They passed the bill, they allocated money here as opposed to there.
Yep. Yeah, it's awful. And then California's got the whole rule that you got to rebuild within 2 years, or they reassess your tax basis, which they would generally raise everyone's tax bill out off the chart. So it's a crazy situation. And the problem is they're still dealing with high winds, so it's not going to be over with anytime soon. I actually saw a picture yesterday of guys on a golf course, and it was, we're playing because we understand the way the fire's going. This will be the last time we play this golf course because it'll probably get burned. It'll probably get burned on Monday or Tuesday. Which is just awful. So and just unbelievable.
Talking about how they allocated money and decisions they made. You kind of get the government you vote for.
Yeah, and I guess that's the point you're making, around the bend is that you elected these folks. You can't sue them in a submission because they're your employee and you hired them
to make those decisions.
Yeah, okay. It makes total sense.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Great depth on that answer, too.
Absolutely. So, we got a question on the C-Spire text line from Josh. It says, hey, how are child support payments figured with 2 children? Second part, does Mississippi have alimony? We'll take them in reverse order. Yes, Mississippi does have alimony, Josh. There are 12 factors that a court considers when determining alimony. The length of the marriage, I'm not going to go through all 12, but the length of the marriage, the age of each party, the earning capacity, income and expenses of each party, number, needs of any minor children, tax consequences, what the standard of living is, and so forth. So we use equitable distribution is how we divide property in debts. So that does not necessarily mean 50-50
No.
in Mississippi. And there are a few different varieties. There's periodic alimony, which you're going to pay, till certain time. There's a lump sum alimony you can pay. It's like, hey, I'm getting divorced, and it's just boom, giving you X amount of money at one time and so forth. Now I will say we are a personal injury firm. We don't handle divorce cases, but I think going back to law school, we all had to. I know I had to take that class in law school, and then thank goodness for Google to help remind me of some things that I learned back 32 years ago when I was in law school and so forth. So, yeah, you do have alimony. And then child support, I will let Daniel answer because it's a weird kind of formulaic system.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Child support in Mississippi is just a formula. So if you have one child, it is 14% of your income. If you have two children, it's 20%, 3, 22, et cetera. There is an income limit. So if you make, it used to be $100,000. It might be 150 now, but I'm not positive. But if you made over that threshold, then the judge had discretion. I know it had to be over the statutory amount. So the minimum at 14%. If you made, say, $300,000 a year, then the judge can he can definitely make it more, just depending on how much you need. But if you have, let's say, one child with one woman and one child with another, then you're paying 14% to one child and 14% to the other. So it doesn't just say you have two kids in total, you're paying 20%. It's 14 to each child.
Yeah. And then the other thing to keep in mind is Mississippi is the only state in the country where our age of majority is 21. So, you are on the hook for child support to the age of 21 unless, A, the child becomes emancipated, so they go join the Army at age, 18, or they graduate high school and they get a full-time job. Or marry. You could, certainly go back to the court to get the order changed.
But I believe there are... I didn't mean to cut you off, but I believe there are automatic emancipations where, like joining the military, you're automatically emancipated as of that date, and you can stop the child support. But if somebody just goes and gets a job, like you're still on the hook for that money unless there's a court order saying that they were emancipated. So if you don't pay that child support and then the mother wants that money back for those 3 years, I mean, they can technically go back and get it. So if that is the situation, I would go get a court order either amending the child support order or emancipating the child.
That's right. Exactly. Yes, sir.
Well, we have a caller. It is Steve, and he is in Saltillo. Had a question about homeschool pastor and fire inspections, just the gist of it.
Okay.
Go for it, Steve.
Good morning, Steve.
Hey, good morning. How y'all doing?
Doing great. Thanks for calling.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you taking this call. I've called before in the past, but anyhow, I belong to a church, and I'm a trustee. Well, I was until a week ago, this past Sunday, and one of my jobs is, what a trustee is supposed to do for a church, and I imagine we have a lot of responsibility. But my pastor's been having what they call a homeschool. At least he called it that for 3 or 4 years. But it's gotten bigger over time to the point that we had a fire inspection a couple weeks ago. And during the fire inspection, the fire inspector, we failed the fire inspection, by the way, but he noted some code violations such as certificate of occupancy. Nothing was there, and also a dangerous situation. We had children on the second floor of that used to be a storage room. They had about 3 or 4 classrooms they built up there recently. And then we had no fire extinguishers up there, no fire alarms, no sprinkler systems, and according to the teacher up there that day, we had about 45 kids up there, children. And so, anywho, code people were called in, and of course, in my opinion, they did the right thing. It's unsafe condition. And they closed the school down, and with no grace period at all until you get these things fixed.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what happened, and I don't know, is a week ago this past Sunday. That was right after our pastor found out that he failed the code. He done nothing right throughout this whole process of having a homeschool on our property, and he should be doing steps. There's certain things he should have been doing, but he got caught with his shorts down. And so a week goes past Sunday. Not only did we have communion, but we had worship, and after Sunday school, my pastor got a letter out and read it. Also, there's about 20 or 30 people from the school came into our church that don't come there, and they purely there to demonstrate against me. And the administrator got up and said it was all my fault. How horrible a person. Didn't name me by name, but everybody
well,
knew
hey,
it was
hey,
me.
Steve, we're about to hit a break, so we'll jump back to you right after this break. So if you want to hold on, do so. If not, we'll answer your question. Hate you're dealing with it, and you're listening to the Schwartz and Associates Injury Lawyers Legal Power Hour, and we'll be right back. So is Steve still on the phone with us? All right, Steve.
Yeah. Okay. My basic question is, number one, I guess, would be, would the church or the members of the church be liable? And I think I know the answer. If we would have had a catastrophic or any kind of failure at the church that would have harmed these kids through negligence of the pastor on how he ran that school.
Absolutely. I mean, you fail to fire. The church has failed to fire an inspection. So if a tragedy happened, the church would absolutely be liable for, injuries that occurred to those children. So that's a definite.
Now, the church is different from the members,
though. Correct. The church is a separate institution. The members, unless the member happens to be a part of that, school, working in the school, part of the administration, understands, and so forth. But, yeah, the church would be, the main entity, but then you could have individual members that are working within the school or are in church administration could also be sued in their capacity. But someone who's just a member of the church and shows up on Sunday and goes to Bible study or things like that and has no direct insight or oversight of that would not be liable.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
So basically, if I knew things were kind of cockeyed, but the pastor had barred me from even going into the CLC building, but I went in there anyways to find out what's going on. And so, but in a way, it'd probably be all the pastor.
Yeah, and then you, from what you were sharing, them saying they had made false statements against you in front of the membership and so forth, potentially would have a slander case, against the church.
I was wondering, it was. Well, I feel because that morning I was taken off as being trustee of the church, and then on top of that, the pastor read the letter from the city saying the cease and desist on the school, and then there were 30 people from this homeschool organization came in, and the administrator from that, instead of church, she was allowed to come up, stand in front of us, and basically, I was the demon. She didn't name me by name, but everybody knew who she was talking about.
Gotcha. Well, I hate that you're dealing with that, and hate that they haven't taken the remedial steps, because safety first is the most important thing, and that's why we have these annual fire inspection requirements in the state of Mississippi. So they absolutely need to follow through with what the fire marshal did to get them qualified to meet the safety guidelines, so that they can continue. So that's without a doubt needs to happen. So.
We were just so far just fortunate, I feel, that instead of looking at it like, hey, this was all done wrong and we should have done it right from the beginning, instead of looking at it like that, to keep these children and teachers safe in here and keep our church from liabilities. Instead, it was all on the bad guy.
Yes, sir. Well, I hate you're dealing with that. I mean, I'm glad that you are, fighting and you're being adamant that they follow through and institute the safety recommendations, and appreciate you listening to the show and calling today, and you've called before. So wish you the best, Steve, and hope you have a wonderful week.
Well, we got another call for you.
Okay.
We got Bob. We know Bob from Jackson. Got an insurance question, and he's ready to roll.
All right. Morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, guys. Have you ever known a church to be 100% satisfied in the state of Mississippi? Guys, I was wondering about the L.A. fires. The reservoir was dried up in a lot of these places. There's a lack of water. There's inadequate fire protection. Homeowners insurance has been dropped, or the fire protection part of the homeowners insurance has been dropped. Kind of similar to the wind thing with Katrina back in the day. So my question to y'all today is do these people in L.A., when they have $1 million homes or homes all the way from 100, 200, 300, 400,000 all the way up to several million, and they have no insurance because of the lack of coverage, and they have inadequate fire protection, and they have no water to put out a fire, does that give them any grounds for a lawsuit and to sue the state of California or any municipalities in these L.A. fire situation?
Yeah, great question, Bob. Appreciate you asking and calling as usual and listening to the show. So we, similar, you kind of piggybacked on what Lance asked earlier. You're going to have a hard time suing the state of California, the city of Los Angeles for the reservoir being emptied, things of that nature. Now, part of it you also have to remember is California's in the middle of a drought. Like, I saw the statistic the other day that this is supposed to be the rainy season. There's some places that have had 0.2 of an inch of rain or things of that nature. And the insurance question you're asking is great, and it's one we've talked about on this show many times. You as the homeowner, that's your policy. You need to know what coverages you have on your homeowner's insurance policy. And what we do, it's what coverages do you have in your auto policy. So the fact that someone may not have had adequate protection for fire peril or don't have it at all, really that's ultimately on the homeowner not knowing what's contained within their insurance policy. I have no doubt there are going to be lawsuits that get filed out of this. That's just the nature of the beast and this horrible tragedy. But ultimately, what will come of them, I think sovereign immunity is going to protect the state of California and the city of Los Angeles and some other municipalities that are out there. Now, if someone thought they had coverage and thinks their insurance agent did something, nefarious, that's a whole different ball game. If they said, hey, I wanted all these coverages and here's an email where I have the email to my agent saying I'm covered for fire loss, correct? And then the agent responds back and says, yeah, absolutely. And then maybe they don't have the coverage. Well, then there's a claim against your insurance agent for, failing to perform their job and misleading you in what coverages you actually had.
I think you hit the nail on the head on what the lawsuits are going to be out there.
Yep.
If insurance companies are telling people that fire's covered, you're covered for fire, you're covered for fire. Well, you're covered for your oven catching on fire.
Yep.
You're covered for your dryer catching on fire. You're not covered for a wild fire.
Yep.
That's typically excluded in every type of insurance policy. Like you mentioned, the water, the wind, what caused that. With Katrina, I mean, typically acts of God aren't covered. Like a wildfire where it's catastrophic, the insurance companies can't plan for that type of loss.
Yeah. But appreciate you listening as always, Bob. So we do have another text here on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. Says, good morning. If diagnosed with PTSD, does that qualify for disability? The answer is potentially. I mean, ultimately, depending on how disabling that is. And then I'm assuming, are you applying that to, are you trying to get VA disability? Are you just trying to get Social Security disability? It potentially could. That's all going to be tied into what is in your, medical records and how severe it is and what limitations of any that a medical professional puts on you for work restrictions or so forth because of how it's impacted your ability to perform the daily tasks of life as well as work. And then the follow-up on that was, if so, could I get back in the Monsanto cases for financial losses? Well, Monsanto, parent company of Roundup, PTSD is not a covered injury in the cases involving Roundup. So they are cancer cases. They are not anything with regard to PTSD. So no, a PTSD diagnosis will not allow you to, go after Monsanto and what generically are known as the Roundup cancer cases that are out there. But thank you for that question. And certainly we have a Social Security disability department. So if that's something you wanted to consider, we could absolutely, talk to you about that. Got a question, another text in, says, what happens if state agency, the Mississippi Department of Human Services, Child Protective Division, violates civil rights by not recognizing a father's rights to his children if they step in and remove the children under a safety plan? So remove them from the natural mother, place them with an aunt and uncle, but it says never acknowledged or checked with the other custodial parent. The quick 10-second answer to that is their focus is the children. What's in the best interest of the children? So that's all they need to focus on. You have the right as a natural father to go petition the Chancery Court, because they would have had to go to Chancery Court and try to seek custody of your children, but I don't believe you're going to have a civil rights case, because their argument's going to be, in this situation, the best interest was to place them here with an aunt and uncle, is where you are. But so great questions y'all have asked. I know Josh, who had asked the child support and alimony question, said he had to step away, so it's 20% for 2 kids.
2 kids.
Yep,
correct.
2 kids is 20, Josh, of your adjusted gross income is how that works. So hopefully that answers your question, but we do appreciate you listening to the show. So according to Forbes, here are the states with the 10 best drivers and the states with the 10 worst drivers. So would you like the 10 best or 10 worst first?
Worst.
All right. Here's the one spoiler alert. Mississippi is not in the 10 worst.
Nice.
So according to this, we'll go in reverse order. Number 10 worst, West Virginia. 9, Kansas. 8, Vermont. 7, Connecticut. 6, North Dakota. 5, Alaska. 4, Wyoming. 3, New Mexico. 2, Oregon. What's your guess for the worst drivers according to Forbes magazine?
Idaho.
Hawaii. So thought that was pretty interesting. Then we'll go, here are the 10 best. So 10-1, North Carolina, South Dakota, Delaware, Michigan, Arizona, Georgia, Florida, which shocks me, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and the best drivers, according to a Forbes survey of last year, Tennessee.
Interesting.
So absolutely thought that was, so hey, we're not in the 10 worst, we're not in the 10 best, but anytime we're not in a bottom 10 list, I am glad that we are not involved in that one in any way, shape, or form.
You get the big wide open states for the really bad drivers.
That's right.
Less cars. You can.
Yep, exactly. So throw that in there. Also, we will throw this out real quick, is the 15 most beautiful cities in the United States according to Travel and Leisure magazine. Let's see, 15-1. And if I say it, see if you've ever been there. San Diego.
No.
Been there. Beautiful. Portland, Oregon. Nope. Sedona, Arizona. No, been to Arizona, but never Sedona. No. Miami. Been there. 11, Boston. Been there. 10, Seattle. Been there. 9, Chicago. Been there. 8, Nashville. Yes, 7, Asheville. So you had Nashville, Tennessee at 8, and then Asheville, North Carolina at 7.
That's your home area.
That's up close to where I went to college.
Yeah.
6, Santa Fe, New Mexico. Haven't been there on my list. 5, Honolulu. Yep, been there. I like this. 4, New Orleans.
Really?
Yep. So New Orleans is 4. San Francisco is 3. Been there, but it's been a long time ago. 2, Savannah, Georgia.
Really?
It's been like 45 years since I have been to Savannah. Like went as a kid on a road trip because they had a great water park that my parents let us swing by. So I remember that. And then number 1, according to Travel and Leisure, Charleston, South Carolina.
I had a feeling it was going to be over there.
But what shocked me about this list, because I love to travel, as you know, my wife owns a travel agency, so we do travel a lot. There are not a lot of mountain things. Like, shockingly, whoever did this list clearly is not a fan of cold weather because it's like, why is Jackson Hole, Wyoming not on there?
Aspen,
Aspen, Colorado. I mean, some places such as that I thought were interesting. Because to me, some of the countries or cities on this list are great historical. So like Boston has fabulous history. And the harbor's pretty, but I wouldn't say that's one of the 15 most beautiful cities in the United States.
I've never considered beauty in New Orleans to be.
The architecture's cool. I mean, there's some things about it that are really neat, and it's different. But it's like, why do you not have St. Augustine, Florida, the oldest city in the U.S., which I've heard is absolutely, beautiful. Why is that not, on there? So it's interesting. Again, lists are one person's opinion or a popularity contest if someone is simply taking a vote, but I thought that was a pretty interesting mix there. So we'll jump to one more text from Daniel's father, who asked the question, what is the punishment if a lower court refuses to enforce a U.S. Supreme Court ruling? So go ahead and answer that for your old dad.
I wonder what his his muse for that question was. If a lower court refuses to enforce a higher court, it doesn't have to be the Supreme Court.
Yep.
It could be the Mississippi Supreme Court and Chancery Court.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if a judge does it on purpose, there are judicial ethics and all of that would go into it more so than – I mean, you could appeal it. It's obviously wrong.
Yep.
Everybody would know it's wrong.
Yep.
So even on appeal, it's going to get overturned regardless of what they do. But then you'd have, if it's clearly erroneous, you'd file something with Judicial Ethics Committee or something like that.
But we appreciate you listening to the show. You need us, we're one call away. One call, that's all, 601 or 662-988-8888. Hope you have a safe and healthy week, and we'll be back next Monday.